Hello, it's Charlie here with a lesson on some music theory. I'm going to just do a series of lessons aimed at guitarists or really anyone else that's interested on basic music theories. I find there's a lot of gaps in people's knowledge because people kind of want to jump ahead and learn about harmonised triads, but they don't know what a C is on a stave and all that sort of thing. So there's often gaps in people's knowledge, but unfortunately the way I feel about theory is you can't really skip anything. You have to go straight from the basics and build up from there. You can't really miss anything. I've certainly experienced the same. So I'm going to start with today about how rhythm is represented on the stave or sort of in music. And there's these symbols which you may or may not have seen before, but it's a really good place to start. So we'll start with these symbols. So excuse my drawing, I'll do my best. We're going to start at the top here with what's called a semi-breve. Okay, now I'm going to be using the British terminology, I think it's British anyway, for the notes, which is semi-breve, crotchet, quaver, as opposed to the American one, which is more kind of whole notes, eighth notes, quarter notes. Not because I don't think one's better than the other, but just from a point of view of keeping things simple. The British one to me makes a little bit more sense, which will hopefully become evident later on. Anyway, we're going to stick with this as a semi-breve. Okay, so I'll draw a very quick little thing there, a semi-breve. Okay, and they are just purely just big kind of what I think of as blobs on the stave, and they are worth 4 beats. Okay, so that means when you see one, you're going to hit a note that lasts for the full duration of 4 beats. That's the other thing. You've got to make sure one. Okay, and it lasts for 4 beats. It doesn't last for 3.5. It lasts for 4 beats. Okay, so that's your semi-breve. On from there we have the minim. So the minim is worth 2 beats. Those both are minims. Minims are drawn with a little sort of hole, sort of hollow, I think of them as hollow, with a stalk. The stalk can be going either up or down on the stave. It doesn't make a difference to the actual note. It just is just a better way of laying things out, if you like. Okay, so that's what minims look like, and they're worth 2. So if you like, you could fit 2 of those in the space of 1 semi-breve, and that would level out. All right. On from there, we have the crotchet, which are these things here, and they are worth 1 beat. So the crotchet is one of these, not brilliantly drawn, but the crotchet is drawn with a stalk and a sort of filled in blob, if you like, and that is what they are, each worth 1 beat. Yeah, and again the stalk can go up or down, and that's a crotchet, and they're worth 1 beat. And again, so if you had a bar of 4, you go dun 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 dun. That would be 4 crotchets in a bar, right? So then from there you would have the quaver, which is one of these, and these are worth half. Now the quaver they are often beamed together, which means that either groups of 2 or 3 or 4 are joined together by a line at the top. Now there is no difference from one of those against one. Let me draw this. This is a singular quaver, albeit badly drawn, but it's a singular quaver. That is a quaver that's part of 2. They're exactly the same value. They are both worth half a beat, but these ones are beamed together. It doesn't make any difference. It's just a neater way of writing. To see a bar of these, 8 of these, without beaming together looks messy, as opposed to beaming them together. So they're often just beamed, but it's the same value. All right, so it's a quaver, that's half a beat. In terms of counting those, what you would often do is you split the beat in 2 using and. So if you had 4 quavers, you go 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, that was 6. But that's the point. So you often you count the offbeat, the and that sort of helps count them because they're a bit trickier. Finally, we have the semi quaver. Terribly written, and they are worth 1/4 of a beat. Notice how I'm always referencing what they're worth in terms of a beat, because a beat is the sort of universal figure. A beat is either constant, well, it will be constant in a song, hopefully. It can be fast or it can slow depending on the tempo, but the beat is always the way. People often talk about seconds, how many seconds, that's obviously not valid. You've got to think about how long the beat is. So all these values represent or reference the beat. So these are worth 1/4 of a beat each. So you would have 4 of them fitting into the space of either 2 quavers or 1 crotchet. Okay, So the way we often count those, people have different ways of counting. If your beat was here, for example, I count using 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2. It's whatever silly kind of phrases work for you. But the point is there are 4 in a beat. Again, it's the same idea as this. They're often beamed together for ease of reading, but they can be written. Let's fit one in here. So on its own, it would have the terribly written little stalk, and then it would have the line there indicating that it is a semi-quaver, because you can see the bars there. Okay, so that means it's a semi-quaver. Again, it's the same concept. Just because it's on its own with a stalk and a little line, it's still a semi-quaver. It's not anything more or less. All right. So those are your basic 4/4 rhythms, albeit crudely written. I would try and find some examples of sheet music you use or have got somewhere or online or whatever, and just try and identify them as a first thing. You can then start to add them up in a bar and look at bars of music and say, okay, well, how many beats are in that bar, and just add them together. We will obviously need to look at rests, because rests do come in to bars, but that's a pretty good place to start, I think. So crack on with that. If you've got any questions, let me know, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.